Hey guys, what is up? Sam or Scorpiola here, bringing you guys a very exciting video because I'm finally bringing you guys, now that I've beat it, an Easter egg guide for Leviathan remastered inside of Black Ops 3 Custom Zombies. This map is simply amazing. It's one of the most unique, Treyarch feeling maps that I've ever seen come out of Custom Zombies, and it's one that everyone who has a PC absolutely needs to try. And the egg is, well, the egg's just something else. You're going to get a ton of cool rewards as you progress through this, including a permanent Perkaholic at the end, leading up to a massive boss fight, and even an ending cutscene. This isn't one you're going to want to miss, so make sure to stick in all the way to the end, and yeah, enjoy. So before we get properly into the juicy stuff, I'm going to give you guys a few quick notes that are going to make this much easier for you guys later on, and things you need to be aware of as you're going through the Easter egg. Firstly, for a later step, you will need QEDs from the box. At least one player needs to have them. As of now, you can only get these from the box, but I will update the description if a new way comes up to get them much easier. Secondly, I'd recommend working on the first challenge on your challenge board, which will always reward you with a max ammo, because those max ammos can definitely come in clutch at the right times. And finally, if you hear the excavator voice say they are going to breach Tunnel 11 or the submarine launching facility, you need to let them do so, because those areas need to be flooded with water, and that's the only way those two rooms can actually be flooded. That's very important later on, and it's going to save you a whole lot of time if you just let it happen throughout. Once they're actually already flooded with water, you can then hack the excavator to get it out and then travel through there easily, but they will need to be flooded to allow you to do the later steps. So without further ado, now that the boring stuff's out of the way, let's get right into the tutorial. So before you can actually start this first step, you're going to need to turn the power on, then head over to the laboratory and go up to this door and listen to this scientist, Dr. Zav, talk for a minute, and then when you head over to the submarine facility, which is where this entire first step will be taking place, you will find that these 4 screens have actually been enabled with text that shows a number on each one. Each of these screens has its own corresponding button, and the number on the screen actually tells us the position in the sequence that that button will need to be pressed. For example, if a screen shows 1, then its button will be first. If a screen shows 2, then its will be second, 3's will be third, etc. So the button for the first screen is actually just to the right of the door that heads into the observatory. The button for the second screen is on this raised platform here, just up this staircase. The button for the third one is on the left hand side of that door to the observatory. And finally, the fourth one can be found at the back of the room, just before the door to the outside to Speed Cola. So as you can see on screen here, my sequence shows that the number 1 is in fact on the second screen. So I'll be pressing that button first, which is the one on the raised platform. Then we'll be heading over to number 2 on the third screen to the left of the door. Then the third one is on the first screen to the right of that same door. And then the fourth one is on the fourth one, which is right up the back of the room. Once you do that, you will find that this screen will actually change and a Simon Says game will begin, much like we've seen in maps like Moon and things like that, except this one is so much more simple. All you have to do for this version of Simon Says is simply copy the order that the screens show you. For example, one screen will light up for the first one, you just interact with that screen. For the second one, it will show you 2, and again, you just interact with those 2 screens in the order it shows you. It's very simplistic, you don't need to memorize colors or anything. Like in the other maps, you simply just interact with the screens in the order it shows you. You'll be doing this a total of 6 times, very easy, it will only take you a couple of minutes, and when it is done, you will get a confirmation noise to let you know it's done, and it will actually display to you a new 4-digit number on the screen. Now with this 4-digit number, you actually just have to go up into the submarine where you pack a punch and enter this code into the key panel. Once you do, you'll find that the front of the ship will open up and you can pick up a valve. If during the Simon Says game you actually manage to fail one of the rounds, don't worry about it, the machine will simply reset immediately and you can give it another go. Once you actually have this valve, you can proceed on to what we're doing next. So once you've actually collected that valve, you're going to place and turn it at 5 different locations. The first one of these is found just outside the spawn opposite the build table here. The second is found just down the tunnel from where the power switch is located. Again, just place and make sure to turn it before moving on. The third one is actually in the submarine facility where we played Simon Says earlier. The fourth one is just above where PhD is actually found on the map in an upper area of the map. And then our fifth and final one is actually in the corner of the cafeteria. Once these have all been placed and turned, you will need to head over to the observatory room where the man in the tube is located, and you will see in one of the corner rooms here there is 5 pipes, each with a colour on it and each displaying a number. You're going to need to note down what colour is adjacent to which number. As you can see on my screen, red is 1, green is 4, yellow is 2, blue is 3 and white is 5. You would want to note these down before you move on to the next step. So once you've actually got these noted, you're going to head just outside of the biodome in the exit where you will see these 5 pressure gauges just outside. One of these gauges is actually not going to have a valve attached to it. You're just going to need to interact to attach that real quick, and then you can actually begin to set these dials. Now how we're going to be doing this is you can see each of these dials are numbered, and as you can see on screen, each of these numbers correspond directly to one of the colours we noted earlier. For example, we would put the number we got for green into the first dial, the number we got for white into the fourth dial, etc. as you can see, and once you've actually filled all of them in, you will then be able to hear a confirmation noise letting you know you have in fact completed this step. Once that's done, you will be able to head back to where we actually heard the knocking to actually initially trigger this step here, where you will see that door, and next to it you will be able to place the valve again, and when you turn it, this will begin a defense. Now I would recommend getting fairly set up for this, but there is quite an easy way to handle this. If you are in a co-op game, you want to have one player go and train a zombie on the opposite side of the map from this guy, just keep him far away from it, and then all you're going to have to deal with whilst you follow him around the map is a few Nova Crawlers spawning on you. And when you do, you kill them, nice and easy, and all we're going to be doing is following this guy all over the map as he does his thing, and eventually he is going to end up just by the PhD machine, where he will go into this room and you will then be able to pick up a crystal. This defense could be a little bit harder on solo, I could see, because the zombies will actually try to attack and down him. If he is downed, you will simply need to revive him before you can move on, and you will need to stay near him to allow him to continue to move. If you should have happened to have actually got a harpoon gun, one of this map's main wonder weapons from the box, you will actually now be able to upgrade it. All you have to do is head over to the build table inside the laboratory, and now that you have the crystal, you can interact with it to build and upgrade your harpoon gun, and believe me, it just becomes so much better. So by this point in the match, you will probably have had your first Nova Crawler round. If not, then just keep pushing until you get one. They will come between round 5 and round 7. Upon killing the last Nova Crawler, you will find they will drop a key. Take this key over to the laboratory area and head into this office. Interact with this drawer sitting behind the desk here, and it will open to reveal a skull. Pick it up and take it through to the biodome, where you'll head down a staircase into a temple-like area known as the Pantheon. Place the skull inside of this plinth here in the middle of the room, and you will now need to charge it with souls. Around the 20 mark usually does the trick. Once it is full, you will know because it will start to glow and it will stop actually receiving the soul energy, at which point you just need to interact with it and it will form a portal. Walk into this portal to head through it, and you will see there is a statue in each corner of this new room with a glowing light above it. Throw a grenade at each one of these statues, and upon explosion, the energy from them will head into the middle, and once all 4 are done, you will see there is a new interactable ball of energy in the middle that will take you to your first little boss fight. This isn't massively hard, you'll need to be a bit set up for it, but not totally set up. I'd recommend some basic perks like Jug, Stamina Up, maybe Quick Revive if you can, and at least 1 Pack-a-Punch gun per player. He's really not going to be that hard to kill. You're also obviously going to want your shield and your specialist ready, because they are very helpful during this. To actually enter the fight, all players will need to hold square on this ball of energy at the same time, at which point you will see a cutscene and then the fight will begin. Now here's a variety of attacks. One attack will just shoot grenades everywhere around him, at which point just run away from him and keep your distance. His second attack will actually shoot just basic spikes at you that will damage you and slow you down a bit. He can also shoot a harpoon at you that will actually stun you, trip you up, and you'll have to melee to escape from the hold. Otherwise you won't be able to move and, well, you're just going to get downed. And another opportunity he does have to defend himself from you is he can put up a shield, which means that he will be protected on the side of the shield, which means just wait for it to go down and then start shooting. Now to kill him, well, as I say, it's pretty basic. Just start shooting at him. Just keep shooting him until he goes down, and you will know this because he will head into the middle and he will start to charge souls. When this happens, all players need to get behind a pillar, because when this attack goes off, it's going to kill everyone not behind a pillar. So yeah, safe to say, you're going to want to be behind a pillar. After this is actually done, you will know because he will start to spawn Nova Crawlers who you will kill and then be rewarded with a max ammo after doing so. During this time, he actually won't be damageable at all, and then at which he will come back into the map and you'll be able to shoot him again, and you will repeat this for 2 more waves. And at the end of that 3rd wave, well, he'll just simply die, you'll get your max ammo, and you will be able to collect a 1-inch punch. To get back to the rest of the map is also very easy. You're just going to need to head through this little portal here that's tucked behind this little nook in the wall. This little skull quest here can actually also be done as a side Easter egg. You don't have to do it just as a part of the main Easter egg. You can do it on its own if you just want that 1-inch punch right from the get-go. Next up, you're going to need to head over to the build table next to the biodome. If you keep following along the corridor next to it, past all this machinery, you will see a blue window in here. If you look in through it carefully, I didn't want to make a whole video on a jump scare, but I really wanted to get that in somewhere, so there you go. Now we're finally going to be working with what this Easter egg has been building up to. The big guy in the middle of the tube, who is kind of the basis of the story for this Easter egg, as he is an old friend of Richtofen's. So basically you're actually going to go up to the tube in the observatory, hold square on the tube, and it will open up to reveal him. He'll talk a bit, and then you will see the 4 computer panels around him will change a bit, and one of them will light up and activate. At this point you will see a prompt when you approach it to interact with it. Then you will need to go and grab a hacker from the lab and then hack this. I would recommend once you've got the hacker that you hold on to it and that you're simply careful of the paths you take and you're careful of the water, and just generally make sure not to drown, because you're going to need the hacker so much you might as well hold on to it at this point. So anyway, once you've hacked that panel, there will now be a beeping panel somewhere around the map. You'll know that you're in very close vicinity of the correct panel because you will start to hear a very loud and distinct, kind of deeper pitched beeping noise that will let you know you are very near it. These honestly can pop up basically anywhere in the map. Cafeteria, spawn, the power tunnel, PhD area. There's honestly way too many spawns to list off, but trust me, when you're just walking a few loops around the map, you will definitely start to hear it. It's a very distinct noise and you won't really have too much trouble finding it. Once you get the hang of it, this step can be done in just a couple of minutes. So once you've done that first panel, so you've interacted with it, hacked it, and found the corresponding beeping, you're going to then go back to the location where we first started this off and do this for the other 3 panels. Once that is done, this step is complete and we can move on to the next part of the Easter egg. Hopefully by now, both Tunnel 11 and the Submarine facility, that for reference being the area where we did the Samantha Says Easter egg a little bit earlier on, hopefully by now, both of those areas have been excavated and are flooded with water. If not, you will need to continue on doing rounds until the excavator actually hits both of those areas and they are flooded with water, since that is going to be necessary to move on. Once both of them are flooded, you can go ahead and flood both the laboratory and the cafeteria yourself. How are we going to do this, you ask? Well, we're actually going to go up to the windows in both of those areas and use some kind of splash damage weapon or a grenade or something like that near the windows, and when they explode, the windows will blow open and the area will flood with water. Once that is done, we can actually go ahead and move on to the next part of the Easter egg. Once you've breached all those areas, you're going to want to come to where I am right here, which is a little outside of one of the laboratory exits, a little bit near the PhD kind of area, and you will see there's this panel here that you can interact with to release the bombs. You're going to want to interact with this now, and this will mean that there is now various bombs scattered around the map. But there's only one we really need to worry about. If you follow the path I do here to this big open outdoor area, you may notice that there is a second submarine flying about. We're going to destroy this and shoot it down to get a rock of uranium. Now how we're going to do this is we're going to simply wait about and wait until it flies directly over where this bomb is, and you're simply going to want to shoot it to detonate it right as it's flying over it, and then you will see a little animation and then it will actually crash down and you can go to where I am here and collect the uranium. Once you've picked it up, this is going to start a very unique mechanic, where as soon as you go indoors, you'll start to hear a loud screeching sound, and after a few seconds, you will explode and take quite a bit of damage, not enough to kill you, but it will be a sizable amount of damage, and this is why we actually had to flood areas, so that you can stay indoors in water and travel from area to area. So you're going to follow the path here that I do on screen, going through all these areas that we mentioned and specifically flooded, and by following this path you will actually end up at the observatory area. Once you get to the observatory, which obviously isn't flooded with water, you're just going to have to run like hell up to this panel and interact with it to place the uranium in, and then this particular step has in fact been completed. At this point, you and your team are going to need to go outside to the speed color area, where you will see what looks a bit like an Origins generator. You're all going to need to go up to the button and hold square at the exact same time, at which point you will be locked into these small gates and you're going to need to fill this soul box. Believe me, this isn't too stressful, it's not too hard. The spawns are very slow in here. As long as you've got a reasonably decent setup, you will probably be good to get through this soul box. But once it is done, do not immediately click the button that is on the generator. The gates will open, allowing you to get out and get set up, but don't click that button yet, because once you do, it is going to turn the power off for the duration of the next step. And believe me, you're going to want to make sure you're set up for this. You're going to want your perk loadout, 2 pack-a-punch guns each, ideally a couple of people with Gersh devices. Everyone should have their specialist, a fully repaired shield. You're going to want to be set for this, because we're going to do 3 lockdowns that can get very tough indeed if you are not careful. As soon as you're all feeling confident in your setup and ready to go into these 3 very challenging lockdowns, a member of your team will need to come back to this generator and interact with that panel on the generator to compress the uranium, at which point you will need to begin the lockdowns. The power will turn off, the lights will go out, you will have a torch on your gun to help you navigate around a bit, and you're going to need to all head to spawn to begin your first one. As you will see, there's this button on the wall here. It looks a little bit similar to the excavator control panels that we have here. The whole team will need to hold square on this at once to interact with it, and once you do, the lockdown will begin. You will be locked into the spawn area itself, while zombies not only target you, but try and attack the button that you started the lockdown from. You need to protect that button, which is why I say Gersh devices are a really solid pick to have as many people with as possible for this, because it's really good at sucking the zombies away from it, keeping them away from you. It's generally good at keeping everyone alive. This tends to last, I'd say, about the 60-second mark, and you'll know when it's done because you will be allowed to leave the area. Once that one's done, you're going to head over to what is probably the hardest one, which is the circular room just before you get to cafeteria. In here, you and your team are going to need to be very tactical, rotate around specialists, make sure everyone's constantly got one active. As one person's finishes, the next person uses, to try and keep things under control. As long as you do that properly, you will be fine and you will get through this. Obviously, because there's no power, if someone goes down, then their perks are gone until this step has been completed, which is one of the things that makes it so rough indeed. Once that one's done again, you're going to head over to the third one, which is inside the lab, just in one little room within the lab, and is honestly probably by far the easiest. Very slow, not very stressful at all. You'll find it very easy. And then once all 3 of those are done, you can head up to like a second power switch in the upstairs area just above PhD near the machinery area of the map, and you will be able to interact with this power switch to turn the power back on, and then you will find that things are finally back to normal. So we are finally coming on to the last step of the Easter egg. I know this has been a hell of a long haul. Thanks to everyone for sticking in this with me. You've done really well to make it this far. And without further ado, let's explain the last step. So all you're going to need to do is take your 1-inch punch, the melee ability we got from doing the boss fight right at the start. If you did bleed out at some point in the game, you will have lost this, and you'll need to go back through the portal to actually recollect that. But then you're going to need to come back and go down to the laboratory area where we initially got the skull from that office, and go up to the painting in the wall and melee it. The painting will fall off and you will be able to collect the Vril device. Now this is where the QEDs finally come into play. We're going to be using them to throw at 3 items that are out of the map. Normally they'd be kind of medium difficulty to hit, one is particularly hard, but all you're going to have to do is copy my angle in the video, and don't worry, you will get it nice and easy. The first one of these is actually going to be just outside the power switch location. You're just going to need to come outside and you will see this one here. This is by far the hardest, quite far out the map, but as I say, if you just copy my angle, you will know you've actually done it correctly because you will see this purple Gersh style portal pop up, and that's how you will know you've done it right. The second one can then be found just by that generator we used earlier, a little bit by Speed Cola, and you're going to need to throw it into this one. This one's much easier to do, along with the last one, which is again very easy to do. You're just going to need to go up towards the machinery kind of area of the map, and you're going to need to go out to this little jump pad location, and you're going to need to throw it into this little garage. Once that's done, again, the portal will pop up and you will know you've completed this. At this point, you can now head back to the observatory. And if we go up to this guy's pod again, you will be able to see the option to interact with these antennas to place your artifacts there. And when you interact with it, you will see there are your 3 artifacts. There's only one more thing left to do before you actually get your free Perkaholic now, which is going to be you need to get a Gersh device and actually throw it directly in front of these artifacts, and then once that portal disappears, you will be able to pick up the Vril device, and congratulations, you will now have a permanent Perkaholic. But we're not done yet. There is still a boss fight after this. This is obviously optional, and this boss fight will actually get you a cutscene and it will end the game. So basically you kind of have the option of just going up to this stage to get that permanent Perkaholic and play on with that core reward, or you can go for the game ending boss fight, which believe me is going to be tough. You're going to want to be properly set up with it, and we're going to go over all the strategy you're going to need to know for that in just a minute. And now for the all important part, the big boss fight. And well, as per the last part, this setup is quite a bit easier because you will have permanent Perkaholic, meaning even if you go down, you will still be revived with all your perks, which I just think is absolutely awesome. But trust me, you're going to need it for this fight, because believe me, it's hard. It's one of those fights where it's really going to take a lot to learn and master, but in the early games, just expect to take a lot of downs, and as long as you and your team can keep reviving each other, you should be fine to get through it, and I'm going to give you guys some of my best tips for getting it done. Now before you go into the fight, well, what should you be taking? Well, firstly, you're going to want a weapon that has high range, high damage, and high ammo. So you're probably going to want an AR or an LMG. Something like an RPK or an HK21 or maybe even a Galil is absolutely perfect for this boss fight as your primary weapon. We're going to be shooting our main boss, which is a Kraken, at a very long range, so something like that is really going to help a lot. Your secondary should probably be something that's good for clearing zombies, because tons of them will spawn. Ideally a wonder weapon like a wave gun, ray gun, harpoon gun, any other wonder weapons really. I actually run a Spaz 12 shotgun Pack-a-Punch. That actually worked out pretty well for me. It was really good for clearing zombies out of my way. Gersh devices can absolutely come in clutch. You want to get as many sets of these as you can, get as many players with these as you can, spend all your money on box before you go in, because trust me, these really will save your team. Whilst you're actually in the fight, you're going to want to keep an eye on the boss at all times. You really need to keep your focus up here. So once you're confident you're ready, based on that class setup I gave you, to actually enter the boss fight, you're going to head over to the submarine room just beside spawn, as I'm showing you here. You and your team will all have to go and stand by this panel and hold to interact at the same time, and you will be spawned into the boss fight. But you'll get a wee cutscene first, and you will see the boss arena is actually Wetwork, the boat from COD 4, which I just think is absolutely awesome. This is actually a 3-phase boss fight. In phase 1, and 3, you'll be fighting this new Kraken boss, and Phase 2, you'll be fighting an OP version of the Diver that we already saw earlier. So let's talk about the Kraken, because he's the big threat really, and he's the one that is most likely to kill you. Well, he's got a few different attacks. Firstly, he can fire off these cool blue blasts that will more stun you than kill you, but because there's so many zombies, it really puts you at a lot of risk. The boss can actually move between different sides of the boat, so you've got to keep your eye on where he is and keep aware as to if you're covered. There's actually crates in the middle of the arena that will protect you from his more overpowered attacks, which do include a blue-white blast. Trust me, you'll be really aware of when he's about to do this, and this will actually kill you if you are not in cover instantly. Anyone not in cover, so behind one of the crates when he does this, will go down immediately. So this has potential to fuck you over really bad, but as long as you're keeping your eye on him, you will be good. And he also has a fire laser blast that this will just do extreme damage to the point you are again going to want to hide in cover whilst he's doing this. Now the question is, how do you actually damage him? Well, you will actually get hit markers to let you know that you're damaging him, but you're going to be shooting him in his forehead around the second light on the top of his head. It's very easy to spot. As I say, you'll get hit markers, and it's very much as basic as just keep pounding bullets into him constantly until he drops. And then when the second phase comes along, you will be swapped out for an Uber driver. It's called Uber Diver, sorry. I keep getting those two mixed up, which is actually the name of the boss in this map. And he is basically the same as the normal diver we saw earlier, but he has so much more health. So again, just pound bullets into him like you did in the first boss fight, and you will be fine against this guy. And then the third phase is again more of the same as the first. He'll move about a bit more, he'll do his attacks a bit more often, but as I say, if you just keep your wits about you, you're going to want to keep you and your whole team rotating around, taking turns using your specialist, because that is really good for covering you. It's really good to have someone cover someone whilst they're going in for a revive. Trust me, this is not the arena to be trying to do clutches. In terms of max ammos, you're not going to get them that often. You'll only get one at the end of each phase. So really, they are rare. You're going to have to conserve ammo, which is why I say an LMG is amazing for your primary, because it just has so much ammo. And with that, guys, I think that's all the help I can give you. I wish you luck getting this Easter egg done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. A lot of work has gone into this, so I'd appreciate it if you drop a like. Let me know in the comments below any feedback you have for me as to the quality of this guide. And yeah, make sure to subscribe for more Call of Duty content. And yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on more Zombies videos. Bye!
All a part of Samantha's larger plan. Now I will be taken as a root device. As for you, enjoy Siberia.